Kim Maynard.
And what's your date of birth?
7/19/57.
And are you aware that you're being videotaped right now?
Yes.
Where were you born?
Actually, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
And what was your family doing in Philadelphia?
My father was traveling around doing, he was a physician getting his residency, and so he was in Buffalo, and then he did some more, he was an ophthalmologist. So he did his residency in ophthalmology in Philadelphia, and then we moved to Washington State that year after I was born. I said, let's go west.
And so where did you go to grade school?
Bellevue, Washington.
And where'd you go to high school?
Bellevue, Washington.
So you graduated from high school in what year?
75.
75. And when did you first get exposed to the great outdoors?
Oh, age of 2 probably, or less. I had a great father who was, I mean, I kind of had two worlds. My mother was this artist, right brain. My father was this ophthalmologist, left brain, and he was always outdoors. And we went rock climbing as kids. We had 14 kayaks. Every time, we lived in the woods, but we also, every weekend we'd be out there doing something. Our vacations were backpacking for 2 weeks. We went backcountry skiing at there's 4 of us, little tiny kids with skins. Back then they were real skins, and my father didn't want to cut them off or ruin a good skin, so we'd roll them up on the back of our skis and tape them on so that we could grow into longer skins, and we'd go back and snow camp and have, a great time with it. And we never had a tent. We always had this tarp that kind of went, just a lean-to type of a tarp. All 6 of us would line up like cordwood. My mother would make oatmeal in the morning, and we'd go skiing. And I never thought of anything different. And we knew the 10 essentials. We had to line them up out on our beds before we went on any trip. And my father would come in and say, "Got your 10 essentials?" And we would say, "Yep." Blah 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 blah. So. Yeah, I never thought that we were too weird until I got into high school and realized that wasn't all that common. So it was fun. It was great upbringing. And I thank my father till his very last day on his introduction of the woods to me.
Oh, that's really great. Well, so when were you first exposed to the Forest Service?
Well, probably that was 70. Well, 77 was when I got my first Forest Service job. I was going to college and I was looking for a way to make money over the summer, and I was with a friend who she had a car and a daddy who was paying, so we went to pick blueberries and peaches and whatever we could find in eastern Washington. We didn't make much money, and I said, this is cutting it for me. I got to do something else. $2.50 an hour if I pick really fast, was not making it. So I applied in that year, 77. They were hiring like crazy. There's a lot of fires, good fire year, and so I got on, and within a couple hours of doing my firefighter training and the 10 essentials, 13 situations that watch out, we went onto a fire and we broke about half of them.
So where were you working? Where was that at?
That was in Shelton, Washington. So on the peninsula.
Okay,
yeah,
over on the Olympic Peninsula?
On the Olympic Peninsula, yeah.
So,
on the sound side of the Olympic Peninsula.
So there was a fire season in the rainforest?
There was a fire season, but the other thing is they had, the old growth trees. And in 1928, I think they had a Forest Service made an agreement with the Simpson Logging Company to cut every tree in the forest. Well, back then it took a long time, but by the 60s, 70s, it was going fast. And so they were trying to get them all down before the environmentalists got wind of it, and so it was the steepest ranger district in the country, and they were dropping these huge trees and slash that was 30 feet high, and we were burning it. And that was our main job, was actually, I was on a brush disposal crew. We were burning this huge piles of slash. We lost every single one that we torched. It got away because you couldn't control it. And then, yeah.
Well, so and where were you going to school then?
I was going to Earlham College in Indiana. It was a small liberal arts.
What were you studying liberal arts?
I was trying to figure out what I was going to study. I was studying to study. I actually got a degree in, well, I went on to Vermont, a school for national training, and I got a degree in international studies, and that kind of started my international career, which I did after Forest Service.
So you're 20 years old, you finally get on with the Forest Service, right? You're burning brush on the Olympic rainforest, and then what came next with the Forest Service?
Well, my first fire, which was that after I got my certificate of fire training, went out on it, it was in the unburnable rainforest, and we were digging line downhill, and it was at night, and we had a fire we hadn't seen, and all those kinds of things, and I fell in love. I just said, this is it for me, and so I stuck with it for 14 years. Stayed there for 2 years, then I went up to BLM in Alaska for a year, then I went on to the Bitterroot Hotshots, and then I was done with school, and I applied to everything I could think of, Park Service, all kinds of hotshot crews, and whatever. I think I got 6 replies, Smokejumpers, and they gave me offers, and I said yes to all of them, and then I laid them all out, and I looked at them, and I said, well, I don't know, jumping sounds pretty good. You get a GS5 the first year, and then if they keep you, you get a GS6. I said, nobody else is offering that, so I took that one, and that was it.
So, and when you were in the winter months then, where were you? Were you out of Montana, or were you still here in the winter months? Or?
So I just graduated from college. I was going to college mostly up in Vermont. Yeah.
Okay, so you showed up for new person training in '82.
That's right.
And so what do you remember about that?
Well, it was a shock to me that there hadn't been any women. I mean, I just actually didn't think about it. I didn't know that there hadn't been any women.
There had been no women?
There hadn't been any women who passed rookie training. My understanding is there's some that tried out and not passed it.
And this is in Missoula or in the Smokejumpers, or what
in
is it?
Missoula. There had been Deanne Schulman. She was the first woman jumper in McCall in '81.
Okay.
So the year before that. So I didn't really think that much about it, working for the Forest Service, it doesn't really matter that much until I realized it was a big deal for the jump base. This is a big deal. And my roommate was Wendy Cam, and she was tough, and she was big, and I'm pretty small, and I'm thinking, well, maybe, I did everything they told me. In fact, living in Vermont, there was no gym, and so I got these coffee cans and cement and wooden dowels, and I made myself a gym set, and I set up a pull-up bar, and when I was up in Alaska, I met a jumper rookie, and I said, well, what are you doing for training? He goes, oh, I run 6 miles every day and lift weights. So I ran to school every day, 6 miles, and then I lifted weights, and I couldn't think of what else to do. So I get there, and I said, well, is it good enough? Am I prepared enough? And it turned out that I did okay. I wasn't the worst in my class, but I could have shined a lot better. So that winter, I learned a lot more about staying in shape. In fact, I wrote a little book that some of the older, let's say, getting larger jumpers who needed to stay in shape needed a little brochure kind of a thing with training ideas and even pictures on how to lift weights and what kind of training is good for smoke jumping. And I just became a sort of a fitness, I paid a lot of attention to it, let's just say that much.
Well, so that first year when you were training, you were one of 2 women, or were there more than 2?
There was 3 of us.
3. How'd that all work out?
Marty Billingsley was the other one. It was great. Well, it was great. I was sort of the bottom. If rookies are the bottom, I'm the bottom of the rookie pile. And so it was, I ate a lot of shit that year in particular. Actually, for a couple years. I think it took me a lot longer to get over that sort of rookie hump and then the gender hump at that time. And yeah, I mean, I didn't even run a chainsaw for those 2 years. Either that or, it was like, Maynard, run the saw, and then there's 20 eyes or 19 eyes looking at me, kind of thing. I remember doing that on a pounder one time. And, or Maynard, climb all the trees and get all the cargo, and there was a lot of cargo, something like that.
Yeah.
Or, so I took a lot of shit. But I have to say that about, I don't know, maybe 4 years later, I tended to drink a lot of tequila, and I was drinking tequila with a ranger who had gone to school with Larry Eisman, who was the head of the jump base at the time. And we were waiting for some other jumpers to show up, and so he and I were drinking a lot of tequila, and he said, well, what's it like? And I said, well, it was kind of tough, actually. It's been, people haven't really walked all over themselves to, they've made it hard at times, but made it easy at times as well. And he said, well, now doesn't that make sense? I mean, you're a new model. Why shouldn't they test you out? And I went, yeah, actually that makes sense, which is what we do socially in the world. So so after that, I put a different spin on it. And then I just got to know the best people. I mean, it was so great. And from then on, it was just this wonderful, wonderful career.
Did you work year round or?